All right, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. We're a couple minutes late, 6:32. We'll call the meeting to order. We had another meeting to finish up. Michelle will take roll call for us. Look for a motion to approve 20 resignations that are embedded in our agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Teresa. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Sue. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Then next would be the contracts. Okay, I would look for a motion to approve the couple of contracts that were embedded in our agenda.
Administration recommends approval.
So moved.
Motion by Teresa, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Rick. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, all right. Next, we're gonna look at, we have our Tomah Area School District Administrative Leadership Team here tonight, and they will be presenting on our district behavioral interventions and supports.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We also have Michelle Powell from CISA 4. So I want to thank our administrative team and our faculty, everyone involved with the behavioral supports we have in this year. Tonight, we'll talk a lot more about what's going on and the work that's being done around this area. So Justina, I'd like to turn it over to you and the team. So thank you, everybody, and more, thank you so much for your direction on these presentations this year on this topic.
Well, we're nervous about the podium, but we can just stand and just get the podium. It's okay, right? Just stand and talk. Preparation. I think it's down here.
All right. Good evening. We're all gonna talk, so we're just we're mighty important tonight. Tonight the administration team would like to share an overview again of our positive behavioral interventions and support systems, or PBIS, with a specific focus on our adult data and from a survey, as well as our tier 2 supports. So again, PBIS provides a proactive, data-driven framework for supporting both student behavior and well-being. Well, tier 1 focuses on school-wide and classroom expectations for all students. Tier 2 is designed to provide targeted supports for students who need a little extra help to be successful. Those supports are intentional, timely, and aimed at preventing concerns from becoming larger barriers to learning. An inclusive learning environment for all students. I will turn it over to Melissa.
Thank you. I know we spoke to this the last time we were all together, but just to remind everyone that we're looking at 3 different tiers of support when we're looking at behavior or academics. So the first tier of support is a school-wide system. We call that tier 1. We expect that about 80 to 90% of our students will respond to that first round of instruction. That's something that everyone gets no matter what. That's where we're trying to make our expectations really, really clear. When you're in the hallway, we're going to look for this, 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 and this. When you're here, we're going to look for this, 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 and this. This is the way we do it here in school. The tier 2 level is in response to the data that we get from kids coming out of tier 1. If we're not seeing the responses that we're hoping to see out of tier 1, we know people are going to need a little extra support. So tier 2 provides it. We look at the data and then we start to customize an intervention that seems like it's going to get at that kid's need. Whatever they're trying to tell us, we're going to try to match them where they are and provide that kind of short-term support. We're going to monitor it, make sure it's working, and if it's not, we're going to make adjustments based on that information. Our tier 3 supports are going to be really intensive, really individualized, and really targeted to specific students. And perhaps some of those wraparound services, looking at some community supports or some kind of out-of-the-box thinking. If tier 2 is things like check in, check out, those behavior academies we've talked about. Tier 3 is going to be all of that tier 1 stuff and the tier 2 stuff, along with whatever additional supports we can provide. That's where we're talking at a student level instead of a systems level. What can we do for this kid? Like I said, everybody in a tier 3 intervention is getting all of the other ones. The other truth is that some of our students who receive tier 3 services do have IEPs, but some don't. Sometimes they just need a more robust team than we're able to provide at a tier 1 or tier 2 level. Thanks, Melissa. So the
self-assessment survey, is, the purpose of that is to check on the health of our systems, right? So as the prior slide shared and Melissa shared earlier, we were looking at our school-wide implementation as well as our classroom implementation. And then it can check also on tier 2 and tier 3. This self-assessment survey is taken typically in the first 6 to 8 weeks of school. So this is right before that Halloween time of year, so that we can really see, did the adults carry out the practices that we said we were going to do? It's kind of that temperature check, and then we do that on an annual basis. If you click the link, the self-assessment manual will come up. That is based out of the cbis.org. And again, it's not only taken here in the Tomah area school district, but across the state and across the nation. We are going to go into this. I believe Tim's going to walk us through a couple of the questions.
All right, so again, the SAS, the self-assessment survey. I won't read all of these to you, but as we go through this, we do this with all of our staff, and we do it all together at once in the same room, and we did create a common PowerPoint to kind of explain where, as we're rating these, what types of things people are looking for. Now, they're all, again, individually taking the survey, so it's not just one answer. Every single person has their own device and can answer how they feel about that. But we do have the ability to kind of just share with them, an explanation of, if you feel like this is where you would score. If you feel like this is where you'd score. So we kind of walk through a rubric with them. So you can see on this first area, all of this, and I won't read it all to you, but in that tier 1, that it is school-wide stuff. So now you're looking at things that are happening all across the school. So I'll just read the first one on there. My school has 5 or fewer positively stated behavior expectations and or rules defined and in place, like the school matrix that we all have. So again, these are school-wide types of things in those first sets of questions. And then we get into the tier 1. So these questions relate specifically to the classroom. So within a teacher's classroom, within a classroom that support staff maybe work in, these are these expectations that are laid out for the kids, that they have procedures and routines so kids know what they're doing. They are giving feedback and acknowledgement to students making positive choices. They're responding to the behavior in their classroom in an appropriate way. So again, this is asking them within their classroom environment. And then next is tier 2. So again, it was brought up just a minute ago that we have a tier 2 level of interventions with kids who are, struggling with the behaviors, need some more supports, need some more reteaching. And this would be a tier 2 team. So we have a team of people within the building, often made up of principal, guidance counselor, could even get input. It's from special education teachers who are really good at dealing with behaviors. Classroom teacher often is involved in that. It really could be anybody who works with that child and wants to give feedback. But again, we kind of focus on those who have more of a strong behavior background. Again, counselors, principals, special education teachers, school psychs. I didn't mention that. School psychs can also be involved in this tier. And then lastly, our tier 3. I'm wrong. Tier 3. So again, this is the most intensive level of support. You're going to hear more about this in just a minute, but tier 3 would include our behavior academies, where we are really narrowing down to what is a really specific behavior that this kid or this group of kids is struggling with, so that they can get some real intensive ongoing support in that area to, again, teach and reteach expectations in that area. Again, either one-on-one or in a small group of other students. So, and I guess I want to say one more time, you heard it once already, but a kid that is in tier 3 has gotten tier 1, has gotten tier 2, and are also getting tier 3 tiers of support. So we're giving them all the different levels of support that they can get through there. And again, we have a team of adults within the building that can support that student. Also, tier 3 wheels brought up wraparound care, so it can include social services. It could include some other outside entities that maybe are connected with that kid, or ways that we look for support outside of our building as well. So those are the actual questions that we run through and let them rate. And so the last thing I'll say before I kind of step away is that this is something that we do every year, so that we can look at areas that we need to grow, the points that we're finding we're getting low scores from our staff, so that we can find ways to teach them or reteach them the things that they need to know. And from year to year, we can kind of look at data from one year to the next year and see, are we making improvements in that area from one year to the next. All right.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
So we're gonna actually go into pbisapps.org, and right here is the demo button. And what's really neat about this is you can click on PBIS assessments, and this is what the screen would look like for open surveys and closed surveys. When we're assessing the health of our system, we're asking all certified and non-certified staff to take this assessment. We want folks that are traveling between buildings to have a voice. We want to make sure that we're collecting the input to make sure that the adults within our system have a high understanding of what we're asking them to do, and to see if we're getting those results. So I'm going to click here on this self-assessment survey 4.0, and you'll notice that they just have a demonstration spool, and we go over here to this review reports, and you can see they have, I'm going to call this Cheddar Elementary, but they have this school that they have, and we're going to see very similar data that's actually Tomah's data, but for this is going to allow us lights are going out. Okay, so
That was helpful.
if we can also put in by item, and we can activate those highlighting reports. So like this Cheddar Elementary School, right? They have 37 certified and non-certified staff take the SAS. You'll notice over here that they have strong implementation, or what's in place. They have some that are partially in place, and then nobody said that in place at all. And so you'll notice what the priorities are on this side. This will give you all access to all 15 questions that would be school-wide, and then the sample questions that they would be using for classroom, as well as the questions for tier 2 and tier 3. So this is kind of the demo site, just so that you have access to all of the information that the teachers have access to.
So the next couple of slides are labeled School 1, School 2. I'm not sure how many of them we have in here. Now the dark green is the results from, those are the results from the SAS, or the self-assessment survey from last year. And then the light green, those are the scores from this year. If you look to the right, you can see the percentages from year to year, school-wide data, classroom data. When we took the assessment, you saw that there were two sides to each question. Sorry. And on the left side, the staff had to decide, well, yes, I know we do this. It's full implementation. Everybody's doing it. It was partially in place or not at all. So that was one of the questions. The second side was them deciding how big of a priority, how high of a priority is that issue in our school. So if they said it's not in place yet and it's a high priority, we could look at that and go, oh, we need to look at that. Along the bottom, it's got both the 25, 26, 24, 25, the school-wide classroom, tier 2 and tier 3. So went through all of the questions, and at the elementary level, we went through, Mr. Geneva Coate talked about a PowerPoint that we put together. So everybody was under the same understanding as we went through the questions. Like, these are the tier 1 things that we have in place at our schools. And as we click through some of these, you're going to see that last year, not everybody took the assessment. But this year, we've been meeting as a district PBIS team so that we've been able to maybe not as we weren't as clear last year as we are this year. And the scores from last year maybe were taken by a PBIS team instead of an entire school. So I think as we continue with this, we're going to see our percentages of full implementation go up. So the schools do not have any names on them. Here's school 2. You can see the percentages again, school-wide and classroom. For the most part, this year's score is higher based on clarity from last year. This one only has 1. We didn't do it last year. Any questions about that part?
So from a high school standpoint, when we kind of looked at our SAS data that we took, we recognized that those areas that were of concern were more in that tier 1 area. So we were looking at kind of defining it more as like a school culture. How do we keep improving that school culture aspect? So, I mean, when we look back at that tier 1 slide that Tim went through, those positive relationships, the routines, the consistent behaviors, those types of things within that classroom setting. And so what we just did, well, I guess it was the 19th, so last week, Monday, is we kind of put out our data. We had our staff look at it, and then we set out like the big post-its of what do we think we can do for ourselves, for what do we need from the students, from admin team, the guiding coalition, GC teams, collaborative groups to help improve that. So now what we're doing now is taking all of those ideas and like admin, for example, we would sit down today, we start looking at the admin one, what can we do to help improve that? And then now we're breaking it down into themes and putting together some action plans. After school today, for example, we sat down with our PBS, we looked at some of the ways to improve for building wise for the students. And now we've put together an action plan to help improve, tie together to improve attendance as well as academics within our tour of time. So it's kind of going through now looking at how do we take these suggestions, put some action plans together, and then now start implementing them. So for us at the high school, it's identifying for us school culture, that tier 1, how do we improve that engagement within that tier 1 to keep them wanting to come to school, reduce those attendance rates, improve those better, then hopefully then improve those academic scores. So
At the middle school, we are doing many different things. Not only the SAS, we took the SAS, but we also went into teams and did a now, next, later activity where things that we need to work on now, what we can do in the second semester, and then what can we do in the following year. And so we've done a lot of adult learning. I'm still kind of in that tier one, similar to the high school. On the 19th, we spent a lot of time doing kind of the second part of our at the beginning of the school year, we had some CISA friends come and the middle school got up from Met to Motivated for middle school. And so it was really good to learn about adolescent brain and how they work. And the staff had just been saying like, what's like now what? Like they never really got to the now what. And so Abby was gracious and did a video for us of like pressuring engagement and like the biggest way to help middle schoolers is getting them engaged and how we can take steps to pressure engagement. We also did learning around our special education department. Did specific learning with like how to help students with ADHD. Some of our students who struggle with attention. And so like specific learning on that and things they can take back to the classroom with them that day. We're doing a 6-session series during our all staff meeting at the middle school. We've done one so far this year. We started back in December, but that one was basically about dropping the rope and not getting into power struggles with kids, and then how to take care of ourselves and how we can learn to drop the rope. So it's very much focused on the adults taking care of themselves to also help their students. And then a couple of the things that they had said is like our tier 2 are behavior academies. And so they were just wanting more information and data. So we've started including more information and data about our behavior academies, about our behavior contracts, things such as that for our teachers. And then we've been incorporating more behavior data. Again, like just letting them know who's in an academy, who's on a contract, what our behavior data is looking like at that time. So those are types of things that we've been doing since the SAS, since our other data collection.
As far as elementary school, we all, based upon that survey, have our own action plan because we're individual schools. So I'm just providing an example of what we do at Lemonwire, but likewise at the other elementary schools. So one of the things that we found from the SAS is that people weren't seeing the connection on what we were doing in the building with PBIS, with the framework, and with what people are asking for. So in that survey, it says, here's what's fully implemented, here's what's partially implemented. And then on the right side, it's how important do we view this as? So we continue to make the connection between what we're doing and the survey, so people can see the direct connection that we have. The other thing that we have done as a result of the survey is people had some question about the flow chart, which you guys have seen before, the flow chart and some of the behavior definitions, which were already there. So we had those put in a file folder on the classroom wall, so they're readily accessible to all the teachers, so they can see those right there. The last thing in terms of adult learning is that we make sure that in every staff meeting that we're highlighting the student data. So I go back to September, October, and into November, we saw an increased number of students with hands-on. So what we did is root cause, and kids are having a problem and they don't have the skill set to be able to solve that with words. So they get frustrated and they use their hands. So we actually did some things through guidance lessons, in-class lessons, and we've seen a reduction in the number of students that are using hands. So how are we using that student data to then implement things into the classroom? The last thing where we continue to work on around all of our elementary schools, as you keep hearing about, our academies, right? These are kids that we've identified that have some skill deficits, that we're doing skill replacement. We're replacing one skill with a more desirable one. So at Lemonwire, we currently have 4 different academies. We have 2 hands-on, we have a motivation and attendance academy, and then we have a civility academy. So those are 16 individual students that are getting direct instruction on replacement behaviors so they can be successful.
So in here we have some tier 2 and tier 3 different interventions that we've been using, and this goes back into our 4 PLC questions when goes to the behavior elements of what are we doing when they don't get it. That's our third question. So we're doing some direct instruction. There's some SEL teaching that I'll go through a little bit more in just a moment here. We have social stories that are used particularly with our special ed students, a lot of times with our elementary students, depending on what their needs are there, and then our behavior academies for tier 2. When we move into doing more individualized work, that becomes more of our tier 3 work. So that's our partnerships with our outside counseling. Students are getting some intensive counseling sessions in our school buildings. School consequences, again, that is individualized depending on what the needs are with that. The contracts that we have at the middle school, threat assessments that are completed, these are all based on individual needs. And then we also do have some placements outside of our district, again, based on individual needs, with them either going to Chilita or Cooley, or Northwest Journey or JCAT. So when it comes to our SEL teaching, we're doing some direct instruction. These are a lot of times small groups, but they also might be individual, again, depending on what the behavior needs and how they work in our individual buildings. So we have second step. We also use the Kelsos wheel and then Be Good People. And Be Good People is a really amazing resource. It's a free resource that is out there. And I do believe we're using it pretty much across the board at all of our levels. And we're supplementing a lot of our work with behavior academies, with stuff that we're finding with Be Good People. And then again, those social stories where we're teaching the behaviors through stories and through elements that are happening in real life.
So just a little bit more about the behavior academies, because this has been our big focus this year, is again, they're very specialized sessions, usually small group, 4 to 8, 8 is pushing it. Students, they run about 8 weeks long. So what they're doing, they come in and we're trying to rewire behaviors and giving them replacement skills. So at the middle school, I do the emotional regulation academy. I'm in my second round with a new group of students, and it's a lot about like being able to identify what emotion you're actually feeling and then what we can do about it to get into green, which is the color it is. But green is where we want students to be when they're learning, and it also allows other students to learn with them. So it's a lot about replacement behaviors and strategies that they can use to be able to be in the classroom, to have optimal learning for themselves and for others. It's not punitive. We really create some amazing relationships with kids for those of us who do that, and it becomes another way when we're talking to them and we see them like, how are we doing today? And a kid will look at me and be like, I'm in green right now. I'm green. And I'm like, awesome, keep going. Like all that kind of stuff. So we have a really good, we create good connections with students and have a really good way of like talking points when they do struggle, because they're still going to struggle. And being able, I had a conversation with a student today about, what happened? She's like, well, I was running my mouth again. And I was like, okay, where were we? I was in red, I was running my mouth. And I'm like, okay, thank you. Let's figure out how to get to green. And again, like you said, we've been implementing it in all of our schools. And we've been seeing a lot of results, which I think we're going to be talking about.
All right, so we wanted to take an opportunity to tell you about the different academies that we've been teaching at every level as well. So Brian and I are up here. We started the school year by picking a few students in our buildings from the previous year that shown some, I think we both went hands off. So hands off behaviors to jump into this and see how the academies really work. And I would be lying to say if there were take-ups along the way. So elementary, some of the academies that we were doing are check in, check out is that first acronym. Civility, so being a good leader in our building, hands off, social skills, and emotional regulation. As Amy had said, we take these in smaller groups. I've noticed that with elementary, even smaller so. So I think the biggest group of kiddos that I have is 3, but the smaller, the more intense that we can work with them. And it's just teaching them replacement behaviors.
So I'm trying to, one of the skills we worked on today was putting our headphones on to be active listeners. So we went through different scenarios on putting our headphones on. How does that make us feel? How does that make people around us feel when we're actively listening to whoever is trying to talk to us? We've been adapting the lessons as well to make sure that they're more elementary friendly, especially for the younger kiddos that we have in those grades. Sometimes the scripts that Solution Tree gives us are a little bland. So really working with the We Are Good People website that was up here before to just try to pull resources from there for replacement behaviors.
An example of these, it's just easy, the hands off. It's a great one to just say to kids, don't solve problems by hitting people. Well, part of these lessons are kids starting to realize what happens leading up to that. What is your body doing? You know, I had one kid that says, you know, right before I hit somebody, I swear a lot. And I'm like, hey, there you go, buddy. That's your hint, right? If you start swearing a lot to yourself, you're going to want to step away because something's going to happen. Another student that says, you know what, I start breathing really heavy and I feel my face get red. So that's an idea that you start doing something different or put yourself into a spot. Then you can trigger some of those replacement behaviors, such as just walking away or talking to somebody, talking to an adult. Beginning of the year, I had 6 kids that I didn't even need to look at data. I could just like, I know this child, this child, this child, who had had significant hands-on the previous year. To this point, I still have 4 of 6 that have 0 hands-on throughout the year. The 2 that have, they've been minor, and the kids right away we were like, you know what? I didn't hit the pause button. I didn't hit the pause button. I should have hit the pause button, Mr. O. But these kids, they enjoy it. They see that we are asset based, that we're trying to build them up. They come to me and say, Mr. O, when are we going to have Cool Kids Club again? When are we going to? We haven't had Cool Kids Club in a while. So they look forward to it, and they realize that we're doing something positive. Yes, we still do the consequential stuff if need be, but they understand that they were in a spot that wasn't helping them. They need to build something.
I think another key piece that I just wanted to mention about the academies was making sure that there's the communication between the person leading the academy and any staff members that may be working with that student. So you're saying that during the academy this week, so-and-so worked on this replacement skill, this might be the language that we use, whether it's push the pause button or whatever replacement behavior it is, so that when they see that child in a situation that they may need help, they can use the same verbiage that they're being taught in the academy.
Additionally, you want kids to focus on one big rock too, right? So one of the students who has not had any hands-on this year, he has had 4 bus infractions for switching seats or eating candy on the bus or something like that. I'm not saying that that's not important, but priority-wise, he was being suspended for things where it was physical, and he's in 5th grade, so it could lead to law enforcement things. So that prioritizing of this is still important on the bus, not switching seat from a safety standpoint, but at the same time, the vast majority of our focus is on those keeping hands off.
Sorry. So we also at the middle school, we're doing the ones you see up there. So civility, emotional regulation, hands off. Healthy lifestyles is one that Amy King created for students with vaping, getting caught with vapes. And then Motivation Academy, which is that attendance academy, having issues coming to school. We kind of focus it mostly on attendance. So we've been doing this since the beginning of the school year. And so a total of 18 students have gone through Civility Academy already. 5 students are off their contracts now. 9 have finished their academy. They're still on contracts, but they're close to being finished. And 1 is currently in the academy. And 3 were in the academy with no contracts. So we're just trying to be proactive with those kiddos. Emotional regulation again is the one that I do. We've had a total of 7 students. 2 are now off of contracts. 2 students have finished their academy, still on contracts, and 3 are currently in the academy at this time. Hands off, we've had a total of 4 students. That one seems to be not as big of, I don't know, not at the middle school right now.
Please. We have one student who participated in that one. They are now off their contract. And 3 who are still on their contract. And then healthy lifestyles, we've had a total of 5 students. So 2 finished the contract or the academy, 3 are currently in the academy. They all have contracts. That also is because when you have babes, that leads to suspensions. And so they're just on the contract a little longer. We've had a total of 15 students in our motivation academy. And we have seen decreased levels of truancy in the vast majority of them. I don't have that data specific because Amy King has that and she's not here today. So, but yeah, so that's what the middle school looks like right now.
High school wise, our 2 big ones that we are dealing with is motion regulation, that our school site testing park is running with 4 students. She started that probably mid first semester, so right around the beginning of second quarter. With the 4 kids, we have, I'm not gonna say eliminated, we have reduced repeated referrals from those students. The last one I think was probably mid-November-ish when I was looking at the data tonight. A third or a fourth one, we're probably gonna extend out simply because we recognized early on that he might need a lot more support. So we've been working with the family and working with special ed to do the evaluation to see if we were missing something that we provide some more supports there. So we might be extending the time with that particular student and then start introducing a few more that we have coming up. It pairs with that check-in, check-out with the counselors. They've been mostly working with the kids who get referral events on disruptive, disrespect, or inappropriate language out of the classrooms. And then checking in basically with them, but over a course of 3 or 4 weeks. Each counselor probably has been meeting with 3 or 4 different students for each of their alphabet sections. And just again, kind of like what Brian was talking about, identifying those triggers, figuring out what those coping strategies are, so replacement behaviors, and then informing teachers. Here's what it looks like when these students are going into the red. If you recognize that, help us, help them. Hey, might be a good time for a break. Why don't you go talk to Mr. Corson or whoever. We have seen a pretty good decrease of those behaviors, except for last week. I think some of these kids started to thaw out, and now we've seen some increase in those behaviors, which now we may need to push into that emotional regulation behavioral academy with Liz Clark. So it's one of those things where we'll meet on Monday with our tier 2 team to start looking at that data to say, all right, I think it might be significant to shift them into a different academy now.
So if that's where we've been, we want to take a peek at where we're looking to go next. We've been really pleased with the success that we've had with behavior academies. They're well received by families and students. And so we're looking at building capacity for them to be really well done in all of our buildings, which means that we need to do a little bit more staff learning to make sure everybody's got what they need to be able to do that. So because of the success there, we're going to continue to invest in that. We're looking at making sure that we're consistent across the grade levels with what we're expecting in all of the buildings. Also leaning into the tools and the language that we need to have shared across our buildings. When you look at the SAS data, that shows that, right? In some places there's room for us to make sure that we're being really clear about what it is that we're doing. We all have the same playbooks. So if we're seeing different things in different buildings, that means there's a communication issue that we need to consider. And so leaning into that next step, that's what that looks like. We're also going to make sure that we're reviewing the behavior data across the building so that we can monitor our impact and so that we can look out for trends as they start to emerge and make sure that when our adjustments are made, they're made based in data and not made. And we want to continue to remain responsive, proactive, and centered on student success. Tell me what to say.
Keep it.
Thank you for your time.
Any questions? Sue looks like you.
I do, actually, and I touched on it on the end here. Are the families aware of what your intervention process is? They know too, so that they can probably maybe try to help to implement that at home. Okay.
Yes, before a student enters the academy, you should have a conversation with their family about going into that academy and receiving that intervention, what it looks like. Hopefully, that's not the first time that that parent has been contacted about behavior. If so, there's other problems that we need to address at that point. But yes, that communication is also crucial.
Good.
Real say.
I guess I'm kind of confused. In last time you guys kind of presented a little more data. Like kind of just reviewing my notes, like you had a breakdown of how many students were in tier 1, how many were in tier 2, how many we were anticipating that were in tier 3. In fact, I got the report in October, it was 128 students that were in tier 3. Where are we at now?
So this presentation is all the systems that are going into it. We can do a pre and post here coming up at the end of the year. But anyway, I think we presented some anecdotal data on that, but our current panorama system will give you that picture fall and into the end of our year. If I have that correct.
This presentation was really about the adult behaviors and what we're doing as adults to help our students and to support our students.
So we'll have a healthy system report at the end of the year for you, but this is such important work. This is the work. The data is extremely important. We do that beginning of the year and the end of the year.
So what indicators are we using that is supporting your adult learning going down to your staff level?
Can you reword your question?
What indicators, like what are you guys looking at? What are you measuring to make sure that this is actually going down to the staff level?
That's what the staff, the self-assessment survey,
Right.
that was surveying all of the adults in our school and what they,
And that's only done
Perceive.
once a year, correct?
Correct.
And so the first year that we rolled this out, this is the third year that we've been doing this program. And last year was the first year that we actually did the SAS survey, correct? And partially, right? So what is the buy-in now? Do you have 100% buy-in with your staff, like to take this survey now? Like, is everybody getting onto the same like team across the board at every school? Like, are we going to see that translate to the end of your report?
I would say that what I see is far more faculty are seeing positive, we're seeing positive responses in terms of that self-assessment. How are we doing as an organization? How are we doing as a system in our building? Other buildings might have, the push and pull of that. And so we don't hope, we put all of this in to impact reducing the behaviors that we don't wish to see, but we will always be working toward modeling and improving and building the capacity of our adult learners to impact student learning in terms of reducing behavioral issues that we see. So that is that fall to year-end snapshot. We're migrating to a new platform next year called NextPath, which will build and design more robust data pieces for you all. But I would say don't get too wrapped up in the dashboards. This is the work. This is what absolutely has to be done. The end result, absolutely, we want to see the slide. But this is the type of work that has to be done in order to see that, and it's year over year, and that's this self-assessment to me is absolutely extraordinary. Because we're learning more about ourselves as an organization when it's done. All of that data is put into their faculty meetings, the PBIS meetings. Never before has it been such robust checkpoints along the school year. So that's what's really been elevated in the district with our work with CISA 4. With your absolute support of the solution tree pieces, I would suggest that when asks come for additional academy training, wherever they are, send your folks to that, because this is not one and done work, it's that sustainability over time. I do want to defer to any of our principals as well, but what I see from organizationally, the broad base where we need to be as a board and a district level, we're absolutely in the right space. Let's say
Well, I think maybe to answer your question a little bit more, I think, last year we put so much into laying out our tier 1 and the matrices and making sure our behavior expectations and the way we follow those were set. And so what we would hope to see, which we did see, was that, and at that level in our SAS scores, that those percentiles went up. Now, what I would hope to see next year, and again, hope is not a strategy, is that our tier 2 scores from this year's SAS would go up. That would mean the staff in the building are understanding our tier 2 interventions more. So that's what I would look for from that data. But I know Michelle was going to explain a couple other surveys that can happen as well.
So the sales, like I said, that happens in the fall, right before Halloween, right? We also, that's not our only assessment. We also have the tiered fidelity inventory that we take here in the spring. The tiered fidelity inventory, so like, again, we've been talking about tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3, right? That is really where the PBIS team looks at the tiered fidelity inventory. We're able to create action steps from that assessment to then continue this whole continuous improvement cycle, right? So then what are we gonna roll out next fall that aligns with our SAS, but then also the action steps that we're taking from the tiered fidelity inventory.
I need some clarification. You said the SAS is a self-assessment, but then you said we take it all together in as a group. So how is that self-assessment? So I'm kind of losing that
So
information.
when we take it as a group, it's actually, we just have the rubric up there.
Uh-huh.
And we explain to people what the rubric is. They take that all individually, but there is a how many point scale? I think.
So they're on their,
4 points.
so I'm
They
just
all
trying
have
to get
their own
picture
device. Yeah.
right there.
Yep.
And you're all in one room.
Yeah,
with
you just have
everybody
the
on
rubric
computer.
and we say, these questions are all, because the way it's worded is kind of weird. This is
Okay.
all about tier 1, these are, and then here's tier 2, here's tier 3. And then sometimes what people get hung up with is there's a rating scale and then there's a priority rating. And that's what helps. Like if there's something that, hey, it's fairly well in place, and then staff say it's low on the priority list, that's not going to be our first step. But when we do it, everybody either has their own phone or their device. We just accountability, right? I know I've had people say, hey, I'll take it later. And we know life happens, right? So at a staff meeting, and then we have the rubric up on the screen and say, here you go. When you're done, you're free to go. But here's what the rubric is. This is what this means. So
Okay.
we don't allow then misunderstandings of terms and verbiage to get into the way of the work that needs to get done.
And then, I have two more things. Is there any way that when you guys give another presentation that it could be embedded so that I can see it? I can never see what's up on that screen. Literally cannot see it. So any presentation, if it was embedded, would be so much more helpful to me. I don't know about the rest of us, but just to me. And is there any quarterly data that you're gathering? I think there is, but I'm not getting that.
I think most of us ended up writing building goals based on, or PBIS goals based on the SAS data. So we've kind of got different ways to measure just those smaller parts. So if we decided our next steps were going to be to focus on making sure everybody knew that we had this, this, and this, we're doing dipsticks along the year to make sure that more people are seeing those things and being able to name those things and point to those things, so that the data looks different when we take the SAS in the spring.
So, okay, so that's 2 times a year, but then your dipsticks, how are you what does that consist? What does that look like? Those kind of things. Is it just a verbal, hey, yes, we're doing this? Is it just a verbal check-in, or is it a written thing? What is it exactly?
I can just think, so there's every month, I'm only speaking for the middle school, but we have monthly PBIS meetings at the middle school. And so what we're doing is we're taking information from Infinite Campus and seeing referral. What are the big referrals for this month? It's usually disruption or defiance. And so we're checking, and then we're making changes within our building systems to like, okay, we're gonna focus really hard this month on defiance. Because it seems actually literally that's gonna be our focus this February. So defiant behaviors and like what those look like. And when we look at our weekly SEL lessons, we're focusing on defiance, like the different aspects of defiance. So we're looking at it monthly, look at our specific data to go along with it at the, like, at the smaller level, while also working on what we found through the SAS data and just having conversation with teachers and what they need in the classroom. Does that help?
That answers it. Thank you.
So I kind of want to go off all that too. One of the things, this learning is ongoing. I mean, I know that this is one staff survey, but every single month, it's PBIS is a standing agenda topic at every single staff meeting we have. Now, each month it might be different flavors, like we've gone through the prevention cycle, so teaching teachers ways that they can set up systems within their classrooms for how they build relationships with kids, how they create, structures and transitions, how they give feedback to students, et cetera, et cetera. So those are things that we do as a staff. And the thing is in, I think most of our buildings too, is that information is going to the teachers, but it's also going to the support staff. Like, they're coming to meetings as well, and they're getting a lot of that same information. So PBIS is an ongoing learning, it's an ongoing feedback. And if we're seeing specific areas that need to be addressed, whether it's specific behaviors or specific areas of the building that maybe we're struggling with, playground, cafeteria, whatever, we kind of brainstorm that as a group, and we discuss it with the staff so that we can take in their feedback and try to work on solving that problem. The other thing, I don't know that any of us use this term, but every building also has a BID team, a behavior intervention team. That's made up of principal, guidance counselors, school psych, special education staff, and teachers have access to that team at any time. So if they're really struggling with the behavior of a kid, they can reach out to that behavior intervention team, and then we can really look at what's going on with that kid, what are maybe some of the triggers for that student, et cetera, et cetera. And then it's a really kind of a team problem solving atmosphere. It's not just up to that teacher to fix whatever struggle they're having with that kid. Because sometimes we know when you're really in it, it's hard to see the whole scope and how you can help that kid. So in all of our buildings have that. All of our buildings have behavior intervention teams, and we formally meet once a month, but informally, again, they can reach out to that team at any time. So.
I have one last question. When was the last time you did a tier 1 fidelity?
The inventory.
Yeah.
So, last spring, we did that with all of our, elementary staff, to kind of calibrate around that. So that was.
Thank you.
So just in my mind, as you're talking about this, as we progress the students to the high school, the amount of time we've put into them from elementary to middle to high school, we should see less of these. Is that happening yet, or is that not? Are we not enough into it yet to see that? Because I got to believe, eventually it'll be less at the middle school, and hopefully it'll be slim to none. Hopefully, at the high school level. But I understand at elementary, we've got to work with them and coach and guide and those kinds of things. But eventually, we got to say, we're making the progress that we aren't seeing it at the final end of the high school level or whatever.
I would say it's a journey, just like your professional learning community journey is. Actually, that strategy implementation guide is broken out into almost 5 years. So something very similar. I would just go on record saying what I see as a game changer in the system that we have now are the behavior academies, and a couple of the other things that I see that have not been part of the system but are new. And I want to thank the board again for the robust professional development budget that you offer us to do that. But I'm going to defer any other questions to the team here.
I do have something to say regarding that, just because I think what happens is that would make sense to think that way. But the behaviors that elementary sees and the behaviors that the middle school see look very different a lot of the times. Like, so they were talking a lot about hands off, where I'm talking more about defiance. And so when we think about like brain development in kids, it would make sense that you would think as they get older that the behaviors would get better, but reminding, and that's why at the middle level, we have a lot of conversations about adolescent brains, right? Because their whole, and I a science teacher, but their whole front, this whole area is their prefrontal cortex. And that is decision-making right? It does not exist for them until, like, it's not fully developed till 25 years old. And so a lot of times they are very rash and quick, and they don't think about what they're doing, and they just do. They say a lot of things. And so I understand why you would say that, because that would make logical sense, but like adolescent brains are very different, and the behaviors we see when we're talking, I was like, that's cute. Because we don't see that often, but we see this instead. So I just wanted to put that out there for you guys as well.
One more comment, I guess, and I'm going back to the family issue, because many of these kids are in school a short time and they go back to the family situation where we don't have any idea what's going on there and can't, as a school, we can't fix that. Really. But are families provided information of where they can get help for themselves to help their children? To work in this process rather than just getting a phone call and say, well, this is what we're doing. Are there resources that you're helping? Thank you. Yeah. Because some of them want help, but they don't know where to get it. And it's a convoluted system.
Absolutely, and kind of what you allude to though is families are very diverse and come from, they have different beliefs.
Yep.
And one of the things that is a little bit of a challenge is we're defining our house.
Mm-hmm.
My school is our house. And in our house, this is how we treat one another, and this is how we respond. In your own house, it may be different. I'm different in my house, right? My home than I am in my schoolhouse. And that's one of our challenges, is taking people with diverse backgrounds and different beliefs. But absolutely, we have referrals from counseling and other things as those come up.
Because at any age, they can't flip that switch that fast to know that, I'm in this house now, and this house, the rules are.
Code shifting, that's one of the things that we teach as part of PBIS, is that teaching that in this is a different setting. There are different rules and expectations in these different settings. It's part of the whole system that we do.
At any time that we have a break, a couple of weeks off, we do that reboot and we reteach. So when we came back from our holiday break, every classroom went through all of the expectations again in their own classroom, in the hallway, in the lunchroom. So it's retaught anytime that we're away from school and come back.
Very good. Thank you very much. Obviously, it's a work in progress, and thank you for spending your evening with us and letting us know this part of it. So we look forward to hearing more data.
Thanks.
Thank you all. The last big item we do tonight then would be to have a meeting with our service consultants from Wisconsin Association of School Boards and was to discuss and make some decisions regarding the recruitment, search, selection, and contracting process that the board intends to use for hiring a new superintendent for the some. Go there or some there.
I'm actually okay standing for a little bit. Like I said,
Table around some, see you.
if they're actually.
Yep.
That works for everybody, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay. Alright, so we're gonna see everybody good down. We're gonna have a lot of stuff happening. And you're all there. And we're gonna look back a few things. So. We got a lot of data that's been collected, so things get started. So tonight when I leave, the two things I need are approval for the brochure that posts the position, which scheduled to go out on Friday. And your choice of essay questions. Ready? So, backing up a little bit what's happened since I saw you last. I got to meet with several groups of people. And we sat down and had some wonderful conversations with them, sharing answers to me with you, with those same questions that you guys all filled out on your sheets. Okay? So I had a chance to meet with a team of administrators, a team of teaching staff, a team of support staff, with the community. And I can't thank you enough because I don't get to do this very often, but I get to visit with the kids. So I got to visit with the middle school kids and the high school kids. And when I show you the data, you're gonna be kind of impressed with a lot of their thoughts. They might just say it in a little different words, vocabulary is important to say. but they expressed a lot of the same things. And then there were a couple little off things. That we did have 5 students that took the survey, and their answers are very different as a group, right? Of course. But the positive thing with all groups and with the survey is there was a lot of commonality. Okay, so what I did when I got done with the groups is I literally sat, asked the question, and typed what I heard. Okay? So at the end, I took everything that was shared, and under question 1, did a whole listing of everything I heard. My system, because I think it's really hard to read if I don't do this, every 5 lines of text, I put a space. So there's 5 lines, 5 lines, 5 lines. So 14 pages of comments. Okay, so that's all one document, and I'm gonna give you a copy of that tonight. You're gonna get that in the next segment that you get to go in your binder. It's gonna have the salary comparables, and it's gonna have this focus group stuff. So the community survey results, more data detail than what I have for you tonight. I have some big things. But I am gonna give it to you tonight just because it is a lot to read. And for obvious reasons, we're not gonna read all 14 pages tonight. So the thing that happened next is a huge time saver. I think I told you this new chat GPT thing. Before I used that just from my own memory and reading notes, kind of pull out themes. Well, I dumped it all in and it came out with 5 pages. Well, themes to each of the questions. From that, then I asked to get down to 1, which is where we got the 1-page profile. Okay, so I'm going to give you all the stuff tonight. We're going to take a look at the 5-page summary, just so you have a general sense. And then I'm also going to share, I took the community survey data, and when it reports back in the Survey Monkey, it's the different groups it has. Well, everybody that took the survey, which was like 243, I think, or 53, lumps everybody together. And then it can be divided into each group. So then I asked, and what I did is created a table of the top answers for each group. So it's all condensed group, because you're not going to get it that way when you're you're just going to get it. So I want to share that stuff briefly so you can see it. And then I want to show you the profile that's been written up then. And then I need your blessing on that. And I actually have a copy of what the brochure would look like, all 4 pages that includes all the demographics, something to office, something together. And I will send it to Sheila again tomorrow for one last proofreading. And then we'll have it ready to go from Friday. Okay? So I know I killed a tree again, I'm still pretty, but that's just not what I said. So, and I know.
Killed another tree.
Well, and the thing is, for copying, you can, to read this stuff, especially all those notes, even though I break it in 5 lines, to sit on my computer sometimes, unless you're really used to that, but I just find that hard. So I'm gonna give you copies of what we have here. So this little one, I did take all of the board responses that I got and did a separate one for the board, just so you as a group can see what you share. Okay. Then this is just all the groups mixed. Okay. So I'll start it.
This
little one is just yours.
is just us.
Just the board.
It'll be interesting.
All right. Well, and again, we're not gonna stay in that read it all. I'm gonna at least give the stuff to you so you can read all the detail stuff later. Because again, I typed what I wrote. Okay, so it's just semicolon after semicolon after semicolon of information. Alright, so what I'd like to do though is this thicker one. The first 5 pages are the 5-page reduction from 14. And I would like to go through that. I'm not going to go word by word, but I would like to show you. So with this, the first 4 questions in that survey were about the district administrator. So it was characteristics, leadership styles, skills, and strengths. So this summary on these first couple pages is just covering those 4 questions.
So personal characteristics, the words that came up over and over in integrity, honesty, and ethical leadership, approachable and personable. Someone who listens and takes action rather than just how they're listening. And I'll kind of paraphrase here. Trustworthiness, genuine passion for children and public education are non-negotiable. And again, on 14 pages, these are the things that repeated over and over and over. When you read that other stuff, you'll see it. So leadership style, visionary, servant-oriented leadership style with situational flexibility. That's what came up. And you're going to see that on the community survey too. We'll get to that. Stakeholders value a leader who supports and develops others. Reinforces teachers and fosters professional growth. Firm, fair, and decisive. A balance of collaboration and critical, and then there's some items there that are listed. Gaining broad input, taking ownership of the final decision, empowering people, leading by example, addresses conflict directly, establishes clear processes and expectations. And you're going to hear and see systems over and over and over. And follow through. Then the strengths and skills on page 2. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 areas there. Listener or communicator. Understands curriculum, what should be happening, what good teaching looks like. School finance literacy. Community engagement, that's that. Being visible and accessible. I think I'm checked visible and accessible about 45. Over and over and over. Okay. Willing to own a stake somewhere. Professional expertise, a relationship builder and communicator. Experience in leading, representing capital improvements. Instructionally knowledgeable, student focused, and capable of strengthening board relationships and organizations. So relationships was another thing that came up in Word over and over. Bringing people together from across the community. So that was kind of the overall for the skills of the superintendent. Then there were several questions about the community and then strengths and challenges of the district. So questions 5 and 8, community selling points and unique qualities. They're bolded. Again, when they got brought down to the big ones, strong, well-rounded educational opportunities. I heard over and over and over from the groups, and it popped up in the surveys too. The variety of classes and opportunities for kids between the tech opportunities, the dual credits, having Western Tech right here in town, the businesses that cooperate with programs for kids, the music department I heard over and over and over again. Lots of opportunities for those kids. Engaged and supportive community. Everyone from the kids to everyone said what a tight-knit community, and if there's someone that needs something, everybody rallies to support and they help each other. And that positive community family feel was something that the kids all said, everybody said. High quality of life for the families, with the community activities, the park and rec combination, sharing with the school district for, having those agreements to work together. The 90-94 location, we're every direction, we're any direction, you're close to other larger areas. For medical facilities, the VA, the COI, all things that kept repeating. Okay. And a unique community character. So history, there's a lot of diversity here that you don't find in other communities because of the Fort McCoy and the Volchuk Nation. Those were things that people spoke to with pride that they have those connections. Large district with a small town. Questions 6 and 7, district challenges and improvement ideas. And I will be honest, we're going to come back to these 5 things again, because I based the essay question options that are going to add to addition to the ones that you had before. Created some essay questions specifically to address some of these challenges. That hones down into what is unique to you. And again, you can toss any of them out, but I'm going to add into these. So challenges. the facilities and sustainability financially. And that's not uncommon. That's a lot of districts. And I heard oftentimes about the referendums and the building and just wanting to maintain and build towards the future. Even the kids talked about building and planning for the future. Kids didn't list the facilities as one of their major concerns. You'll see that in the ones that they're serving. But knowing and understanding, they all understood education is changing and how do we adapt and plan for the future. That's where that all from. Staffing, recruitment, and retention, you're gonna find is the number one issue across the board. That is number one. We'll get to the community survey, you'll see that graphically. Student well-being, behavior, and safety, also not uncommon, but that came up as one of the top challenges. Academic achievement and program development, not that people were dissatisfied, but the concept of keeping it out in front that you always want to be continuously improving. You don't just sit on your laurels. What do we do to keep improving? So that is a challenge. It doesn't mean it's happening right now, but it's a change. That's the way it's supposed to. And then communication, trust, and leadership systems. I think somebody, one of those is on somebody on the board here. Synergist. I've never heard that word used, but that is a good description of a district administrator. There's a synergist. You're building systems that get the work done. And that is the central person that helps working with that. So coming up with that system. And then question number 9 was not on the survey, but was with our group, and they had a lot of fun with that, actually. I do set it up in a positive way. That, hey, first week the new superintendent's on the job and they happen to run into you and kind of want to sit down and have a cup of coffee. And you as a community person, they want to know what advice you could give them, get off on a good foot and good start. And one of the groups, somebody spoke up, well, the fact that they're asking me for my opinion is a good start. So you're going to see that. But if I took everything that everybody said about the advice, these are the 10 things. And I thought, wow, this is my business. To sit down with the person and say, all right, be visible. Number 1, build relationships. Number 2, listen before you lead. Don't just jump in. Engage the whole community. Community theme was loud and clear. Be authentic and approachable. That can have to when we make mistakes. Being honest with it. Being kids in particular, middle school kids. You can tell if someone's just not being honest with you. Be real. Okay, excited. Communicate clearly and often. Honor the past. This is a community with a history. It has culture. It has things that people appreciate, and we'll keep that going. Empower and trust your team. You can't do it all by yourself. Be student-centered and lead with courage and confidence. So there's your 5-page summary of 14 pages that you can read.
And that's what AI did?
AI did that for me this time. Normally I'd have to sit and read through all the notes and then and kind of highlight and tally, like, okay, I'm hearing this, and then tally it up. I was amazed at the first time I did it. And having sat with all those groups, I know that's what they said. All right. There were a few words here and there that I adjusted and modified and added some things that I knew came up. Downtown Thursdays, I'm sorry, I have to come to Downtown Thursdays now. Every group, I got to the last group of community group, and I said, okay, I'm getting to this question about, running a bunch of community, and there's one thing I've heard from all the other groups, I kind of put them on the spot. And he knows I asked, and finally they got it, and I said, big no, it's the one, Downtown Thursday night. So there's a lot of community pride in all of the people. Yeah. So somebody even gave me the first rank of my so I'm over the band. Yeah, that was something for me. So any questions? And again, I know I kind of went through that, but I just wanted to give you a flavor. Okay. All right. This is the community survey. So what I did as it goes on, like, for example, the first question asked them to pick their top 6. So I highlighted their top 6. So demographically, I don't know why, but sometimes people skip questions. So there are 253 people who took the community survey. So question 2 is personal characteristics. Now the difference between the community survey and the group I sat with is the groups when I sat with them, it was open ended. When you took the survey, these were your choices. So they had to rank them. First one, second one, third one in order. So there's a fancy mathematical thing that figures out which one has this one people picked as number one the most. So when you get the copy from your binder, it's gonna have this ranking and percentages and that stuff. I just skipped that. I just put number 1, 2, 3, 4. I did them in order and I highlighted the top 6. So when you look at personal characteristics, approachable, communicator, look what was number 1. All 5 groups. Okay. And there isn't a lot of variation in the first top 3, really, 3 or 4, no matter what the group is. The ones that were general towards the bottom are towards the bottom. But when I see green for approachable communicator and honest and ethical across the board, and problem solver has 4 out of the 5 groups. So this is how this sheet works. So just so you can. So question number 2 or 3, leadership style. Everybody picked the exact same one out of the choices they were given. Everybody 100% agreement on 20. Now they varied with 2, 3, 4 maybe, but they only had 6 choices here, and I just took the top one. Just to highlight it, that was across the board.
I don't think people understand what a transformational person
They have
is.
that definition on the survey. Transformational's role of the superintendent is to change.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right,
And that's not a real good definition.
I'm taking that with a grain of salt, so you'll see with the profile that I did do a little bit of accommodating for some of those things. So question 4, specialized skill. Everybody, they ranked it a little differently, but everybody, number 1 or 2 was recruit, manage high quality staff across the board. Then build positive board administrator relationship and a child advocate. Those were. Okay. So now, when you look down the students, some of that, they have a little different view on things, but that's okay. That's okay. I was just excited that 5 people marked themselves as demographic students, which is great. All right. Expertise. Budget development and management, community engagement. The top 2 if you look at. Strengths of the district. A little bit more across the board, but again, if you look at the different groups, what they picked as their number 1 strength. So the community members that took it, the community support is the number 1 strength. District staff member, the professionals, so on across the board. But when you look at the strengths, it's okay to be varied because people are coming from different perspectives. So that means the district is meeting different needs. Yes.
Sorry, I'll go back to question number 2.
Yeah.
For the student, so honest ethical was 1 across the board.
Yeah.
So looking at the student column, there's 2 1s. There's honest and ethical and it says.
Assuming sense of humor.
Should be the 13. I thought we were saying.
So number.
Because a 10 is missing.
10 is missing.
Right.
I'm sorry, it should be a 10.
I just don't see a lot of students. I would say sense of humor, I would see them putting as 1. That's what I just.
Oh, well, I will pull it up. I'm guessing you're right.
It's probably a 10.
I mean, I'm guessing too, but then I think of like the kids' behavior and like most kids aren't gonna care if someone's honest and ethical, like.
Well, except that the 5 that took this
But
probably.
maybe the kids who took it are
Yep.
more.
Yep. I'll dig it out.
Yeah, I got really
Right. So maybe you want them.
Yeah, I'll find it so you can look at
It's
the.
okay, it's
yeah.
not gonna
But
be
thank you for
different,
watching the same.
but this is thinking with it being all ones across the board.
Yep, no, that is right. Oh, that I know that's right.
Okay.
Cause I did the top ones first. But I'll find it for you. So anyway, good question though. And the other thing I was gonna tell you is I just went strictly alphabetical with all of these categories. When you get the full thing, it literally does a bar graph. And so the top one's gonna be so they do it in the order of top ones. So it's gonna look a little different. But thank you for pointing that out because yeah,
It really is not gonna make any difference whatsoever on the.
No,
budget
but I'm not
being
gonna-
asked. It's just wondering for the sake of wondering.
yeah, no, I will find it. Alright, so strengths of the district, where did I leave off? Okay. Expertise, strengths of the district. And then challenges of the district. So on the very last page, attract, retain staff, budget, financial resources. Staff morale went up, down, up, down, up, down, but it was in the top 6 for all time. Communication. Facilities was 3 out of their 5, right? So. Anyway, no, a lot of data to digest later.
It is.
Cheryl, how many people were at the community? Roughly.
What did we count? 13, 14.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. So it was a great conversation. I mean, really did have good. They were probably the most verbal in terms of how much, I mean, they just kept talking, so I just kept talking. So there was more stuff probably from that group when we got there. That makes sense when I think about it too, results. So here's the draft of the brochure. And I can't thank the office staff, and assuming Sheila had a lot to do with it, I will double check with her on that. So the third page is the one when we get a chance to look, that's the one you have to kind of give me thumbs up or thumbs down if there's any other that comes out. Yeah, the candidate profile. That is what was built from the 14 that went to 5 that went down to 1. And I want to give you a few minutes to take a look at that. So that's the piece that's going out.
And this would just be like a page on the.
This is all online.
Right.
Yeah.
But if somebody's gonna buy, they're gonna see it, they're gonna kind of see this is what we're looking for.
Yep, they're gonna
Yeah.
see this, then they're gonna open up and scroll down to page 2, and then this is where most of them go look for. Like, what is the district looking for? So this is the one I need, some feedback.
Sure, how long did the, community focus last? How long?
We went over time. We were supposed to have an hour, and it went probably an hour 15, 20. in addition to the community people over here, there are radio, media personals. Yeah. No, it's really good. People are really sharing and different. I thought.
But you said 14, because I know we were wondering if it was gonna be higher, because we were talking about the lottery, even the 25 or something. And there was some feedback, I know I said personally to people, because they didn't get it, where, showed that that was a part of it.
So we don't need to do anything.
Well, the rest of it, unless you find, but I'm gonna run that past you a little bit. This other stuff's more what the office did, and it is what it is.
I just,
But
you know,
I want
feedback.
corrections on here.
Well, it's not a correction, but I have a thought.
Yeah.
Instructional and organizational leadership.
Yep.
We always take it to the next level. The second bullet point, advocates and advocates for all advocates for all students. And then we go on and says demonstrates commitment to equity and inclusion. If we're an advocate for all students, does that not cover it?
Well, yeah, so we can just throw
So
away.
No, I'm just,
Nope, cause I was just looking at that. While you guys were talking, I read this and I didn't see a whole lot of equity and inclusion in there, so I was just wondering where that came from and why we are including it. Cause I had the same thought as Spencer, do we really need to include that?
So it's also like a double.
It is.
Right, it is,
It's
but
a
I just
double.
I didn't see it a lot in here, and again, I read it in 5 minutes, so.
Right, and
If
I'll
you're-
take a little, cause I took some license with, every group talked about diversity and how important it is to understand and be accepting of and celebrate the diversity in the community. You will see the word diversity.
I did,
over
I
and
did.
over.
I just,
So-
the diversity versus the equity and inclusion, so I mean, I don't,
That's the point.
my view, I don't equate the two to each other.
Okay.
I don't either.
So,
And we can cross that, it
Just
just
straight
ends
off.
with advocates for all students.
Yeah.
Yep.
I go for that one.
Okay, that's simple, that's why we do it.
What thoughts or ideas or anything like that?
No, there was something I had. You do have it saying basically think outside the box. Innovative, use of innovative and
trying to figure out where it is.
You're not listening on this.
Relationships and community, diversity, and serious priorities for others and other cultures.
In addition to being an attentive listener.
Where's the
Well,
second?
Okay.
Paragraph
That-
13.
and then the second category, there's the list of our-
Okay, you said it's, thank you. Well,
Yeah, you're the speed reader. so
she
you got it.
is, and exhibits a sincere desire to others and be approachable.
So, yes, go ahead, because I have one question there.
mine's just a quick one. None of us were on the board for the last superintendent. And I was just wondering how much different, I mean, you would have access to.
I have access to it, but I didn't look at it. I'll be honest.
No, I was just kind of curious what you would find
You know what,
different.
I'll find it for you, and like I can send it.
I don't remember what it was like before.
I did go talk to Zane on Buka.
Yeah.
Cause she was on the board when we did last time. Okay. But there we go in the communication issue. She hadn't seen any of it and didn't know how to do a QR code. She didn't know how to open up a file to do that. And she was gonna call the district office, but now when I think about it, when I went to talk to her, I think it was probably too close to the deadline. But she would have had some good input because she was on the board to know, yeah.
So the question I have, because I sat in debate it. The referendum, the term referendum, using that word. I mean, the districts do that. I mean, that's, everybody's looking at referendums, but you have some specific needs for that. So it's kind of just all encompassing, because I had people bring up grant writing and finding the revenue sources there. So I found there were a variety of thoughts about how to generate revenue, which is above and beyond right now. I also heard several times about having conversations and come see us and come maybe to the county meeting, the township board needs something other than referendum. So it's bigger than just. So this last bullet, and I want, if you want me to put the big representative type of thing in there somewhere, because right now it's not, that word is not on here. Seeks and manages resources, just, you know, it's a broader thing, but I also know that several of you mentioned the word referendum, so I left it out with SDGs. But if you'd like me to add something about referendum experience under that management and finance, we got a bullet.
What about if you had, if some of us had referendum, some of us did not, but some of us also had partnerships with, business. If you're gonna add referendum to add, partnerships and, grants and things like that, I don't.
It gets complicated.
It does.
I still do think that having referendum experience is good, whether we choose to go to another one or not. It's still
Right.
good to know, to have an experience in it.
I wouldn't say preferred, I'd just say having, referendum experience, because if they're coming from another state, they aren't gonna fully know it would be bonds or it's called something totally different, so.
We're gonna be doing it now.
Right. That's what I mean, it would be, yeah.
So I just, right now, I really don't find it was added as a referendum.
As a referendum. What about experience in,
Right up.
other collaborative, experience with, collaborative financing with businesses? I don't remember how I just said.
No, I know
before.
what you mean, but like,
Yeah, but I think seeks and manages resources.
That's what I was reading that too.
Kind of covers all of that, doesn't
The
it?
referendum and everything.
I think, yeah.
That's your feeling?
Provide funding for improvement projects.
Because they all know there's gonna be referendum. I mean, in
That's
the
fine.
Glasgow meeting in Milwaukee, that's all the classes were on.
90%.
90%
We're on
were
referendum.
We're on
I
referendum.
mean,
So
and
it's not like it's.
It's not a surprise.
Yeah.
This is the legislative issue.
I don't wanna go off referendums, but I'm gonna lose my train of thought here for, so I just need to say. So when I was reading that, this one. So I'm biased because I'm a behavior analyst, but I saw the word behavior a lot in here. And improving behavior is one of the two things that we talked about. Communication, right? The other one in behavior. So can we put something where it says like inspires and supports the implementation of innovative instructional programs and strategies? Can we add something about having like some sort of like well versed in PBIS / PLCs?
Well, PLCs are the academic.
But that's what I'm saying, but right.
You worded it without.
But
getting
what
to
I'm,
it, yeah.
what I'm saying is if we're
you
implementing,
can
if
say
we're
that.
implementing a PLC, they
Right.
need to have
They
some
need to-
sort of knowledge of the PLC.
The PLC.
Right,
process, yeah.
and if we're doing PBIS and behavior is mentioned how many times throughout
It's huge.
this?
Yeah, some of the words somehow like.
So
they
have to-
Collaborative learning environments. or
Helps
something like
others be their be and do their best, with through implementation of PBIS and PLCs and things like that. Is that?
that. Some kind of collaborative
Well,
learning.
You can even do
Here's
like
what I-
innovative instructional and behavioral programs and strategies, including
There you go.
PLC and PBIS.
There you go.
Bingo. I'm gonna say that was pretty good after being in wrestling meeting for like 3 days and doing 2 day training. That's it. That's the free power. That's big.
Give it a show.
Thanks, Cheryl. You're welcome.
I got it.
You got the last few cells there.
Inspires and supports the implementation of innovative instructional behavioral programs and strategies, including PLCs and PBIs.
Well,
Including and but not limited to.
but, okay, so you just took out the intent of innovative instructional programs.
No, she said
It said
instructional and
instructional
behavioral.
behavioral programs and strategies.
Because that to me says it's all about behavior rather than innovative instructional programs.
And
And-
innovative instruction is still there.
It's still there.
I
It's
know, but it's-
innovative instructional and.
What I think of innovative instructional programs is different than innovative instructional behavioral programs, and that's
So
what it
that's why we
sounded
put
like
the
to me.
word
That's what
and.
Anne's in.
So innovative instructional
Uh-huh.
programs and behavioral programs.
But she didn't put the and after program.
She did,
4 programs.
she did, it's,
Read
so
it
it's
again.
gonna read as inspires and supports the implementation of innovative instructional and behavioral programs and strategies, including but not limited to PLCs and PBIS. Because we can't teach if there's behavior issues, right? So it goes right along with those instructional innovative programs.
Okay. Got it, that's why we're having this conversation, it's your posting. So, I can infer a lot, but I want it to be one. So the changes I've got are this one that you just read, and then the referendum experience I added on.
And cut off the advocates.
And I cut off the end of it, so I just said advocates for all students.
So can you read the last one, management and finance, please?
Yep, there's a bullet for build effective systems. There's a bullet for seeks and manages resources to sustain and strengthen programs, and then there's a separate bullet for referendum experience.
I'm not sure if I'm not real comfortable with the last bullet. I think that it works even better without.
I think would be helpful.
It's not.
I just don't want it to
necessity.
eliminate, I don't want it to eliminate a whole class.
I don't think it's gonna eliminate one superintendent, so spouse.
Yeah.
Or
Or
even
even
from outside.
or anything like that. I think this is a national.
Okay, so I will send a copy of the revised one to Sheila, just to make sure some of this stuff is exact, just one last time. And then it will go out.
So kind of general question for you. Did the job put in already on the 6th or something?
Well, there was a notice put out saying Tomah is seeking a new superintendent, more information to follow.
Okay, more info. Okay, that's all I was asking. Okay.
Yeah,
So this is kind of adding with the
This
more
is
information.
the
to follow.
official,
Okay.
now you can apply.
That's what I was wondering. I was like, so people that already applied, but I get it.
No, they have not,
Right.
applied, but I got a couple people, one email, one call. Okay, they did.
I have probably 10 people talk to me at the school board. I hear you looking. I hear you looking.
Well, there's stuff up there.
I think it's good.
Alright. So this is just then, in addition to the other essay question samples I gave you. This list is specifically addressing those specific areas that came up as high. So staffing improvement and retention was number one across the board as a challenge. So there are 3 questions here that you could consider. One of them, the student well-being with mental health, behavior, there's improvement on that. Facilities and finances, and then the communication and trust. And the one that came up a lot in the in-school pieces, well, no, the community did it too. You do have a unique situation where you have buildings that are geographically separated enough that you have separate, they are different. And there was some commendation to the board about the fact that you recognize that and you're not trying to mess with that, that you realize they're different. So there is a question on that communication, trust, and leadership number 3 that I thought would be unique to your district that I don't think anybody would have necessarily answered before. So anyway. But if you want to read through these, if there's anything that pops up, I wouldn't pick more than 2. So we could agree on
2 total or
2 total?
I mean,
Yeah.
2 total, oh yeah.
Or 2
yeah.
total, okay.
Because they're gonna be limited to a page, you know.
So we're picking 2 total that will be part of their application.
process.
Okay.
You would read their answers.
as part of your strategic
I think some of these will be good, wouldn't it?
Yes, and that's in language intent, then you can save the rest. You're not
Oh, I
gonna
see.
know if the start to, but if there's two that you would like to pair or one, it doesn't have to.
Yeah, so I guess you gotta think,
Like this one right
what is
here.
your highest level ones that you feel are important? No,
It's
right
gonna
off the
take
bat.
me about 10 minutes to read.
Oh,
this,
yeah, and that's
By
fine.
the way,
Yeah.
so they can have their conversation, but it's gonna take me a while.
I think communication is probably gonna be,
I think the number one,
yeah.
how do you build trust and transparency with staff, families, and community, especially in addressing difficult issues or change initiatives?
Over needs rest, I think that's a great one.
I think that's the.
Right here too, number 3 under facilities, when a community has previously rejected.
You're way faster reader than you just, let me finish. your
Yeah,
sentence.
sorry. Twice. So I'm going back there.
I'm trying to listen and take
Listen,
input, and I'm trying to read.
Page articles all day, every day, so I
I
gotta
have to be dyslexic, so just wait. Yep, no, we'll wait. And again, we're not gonna throw any of these out, you can use them again, but that's some fun, but just if there was a companies really like, things right on. That would be hard.
The last question would be on there, but what? Not necessarily.
Then I would wait till maybe the second year you have this one. That would be my advice, or is that when you're down to your last 3. That's right. So I found it for you. Okay. Right, so this is the way the report's gonna come, but it'll be. Here's what you might pull around first to choose. Perfect. So, the first one is, this is how it's gonna be. Then it has all this numbers.
Make sure you hit one.
Alright, this is my jam.
Get the person.
Well, see,
This is
so
just.
I will be honest with you, I understand is when it's small. Figure some, this is for us to supplement this. How many? This could have been some of the student reward things. Some weighted things.
Right.
I don't know what one is. So there must be, one time something was going to be number one.
But, and I'm gonna say Paul.
It's gonna have something, yeah, to do with how many times we thought of this. I wonder if they blocked them, so one thought were sent.
I tried playing.
So then, cause then that would be 30. Yep, and then divide by how many responses.
Well, maybe, I didn't get it.
That's what I'm guessing.
You know, and with this small one, but when you do the bigger one. I just think it's small.
I did on the ones that you were looking at.
I've seen that.
I started looking through, I started taking
Oh, you
these.
did those, okay.
So I would cross and divide, so I took the average and then the lower the number, the higher it was. So then this ended up being 1, 2, and then he's tied for 3. Because I wanted to see which could be for all green or.
I couldn't do it, but if I had to do it for a long time, it'll bother me. So it's so much easier. I'm like, ah.
Just wondering if that
What-
was tape.
Worst part of it is this one.
It was, I dropped.
What's your name?
No worries.
Man, am I old?
You go on data, you still drop this, I don't have to sit and really look at it.
You're just thinking, that's my,
Yeah, they're-
that's my job. Just saying.
Experienced or something.
A whole training on data today.
I don't think that's.
Trained my team on naturalistic developmental behavioral intervention, data collection.
That's not like the weirdest.
Tomorrow, CPI training. I have
Great.
3-day residency, note to self, so I'll never do training after residency, because my brain is shot.
So I was kind of talking to Spencer a little bit about this, and maybe you will on this, but if you're only gonna, if we're going on a 2, I think we gotta kind of think in your head, what are the 2 most important things in your opinion, our opinions, that we need to hit on, and then make sure that these questions hit on those.
So I think that when you think about what the community has said, so looking at that 16-page thing, I think 1 in the communication trust, and then 3 in the facilities kind of almost encompass everything, right?
Yep, and I had 2 in the facilities, but maybe 3 is.
I'm just thinking because.
I had number 2 in the facilities.
Did you? So maybe 2, like, but I just was thinking you need to build.
The only thing I didn't like about that is when it says rejected. So to me, to a certain degree, you're almost starting on a negative note.
Well, and actually, now that I think about that, the credibility and confidence would go up at the same with the building trust and transparency.
Yep.
So that almost would be redundant. So maybe, yeah.
So
Are
1
we
and 2.
gonna go off of this, or are we gonna go off of this one? Because
Uh-huh.
this paper, I like number 3 on this one.
What's that?
What's that?
On the
Search
first
services.
list that I gave
This
you.
first list of questions. School district is continuously focused on improving learning opportunities for all students. This work requires creative and innovative thinking. Provide an example and outline the steps of an innovative practice or activity you implemented to sustain high levels of student learning. So that would be 1. It is a long one, and if we only want.
But it's one practice, so they're only outlining one thing. That would be interesting just to see what they pick.
Right.
Does anybody else have I have one other copy of that.
If you wanna see the wording.
What's nice about this number 3 is it's totally their choice on what innovative things, number 3, yeah. It's one thing that they picked, so instead of you picking a topic, it might be interesting to see what they pick is, that they wanna tell you about. That's the advantage. to
Gives
that.
them an opportunity to tell them more about how they function.
I don't know what's important.
I missed what you just said. I'm sorry. What were you just saying? Yeah.
Well, I was just saying with that number 3 on that first list, it's the candidate picking what they want to share with you versus you defining a particular topic. So it might be interesting to see what they're talking about. And maybe it's something you never even thought about that would be a great project to have. I mean, that's the advantage. It's not limiting the box of what they share with you. They choose some innovative thing that they've done. That's the advantage to that.
Does everybody agree with number 1? The very first one on the.
Yeah.
How do you build trust, transparency, with staff, families, and communities, especially when addressing difficult issues for change? Provide specific.
Sounds like, I think everybody's, I think 100%.
I do have it circled, so
Yep.
what?
Okay. So that one for
That'll
sure.
be the essay question?
That'd be 1.
Unless I missed everybody, then we're either down to number 2 under the facilities or
3
number
on
3 on the original search one.
Right.
Yeah, you did that one, yeah.
That one. That one's number 3 is gonna be very, very cumbersome for them to do. It's gonna be a really long-winded insert.
Are you talking about limited? They're told the limit is 1 page.
Yeah.
Okay.
This one, number 3, right?
Yeah. Yeah, 3 on the search activity, the search
Yeah, the
services.
one I gave, there was the generic list.
Or 200 facilities.
I say 200 facilities.
I think so.
Yeah, the other one's still available.
Oh, wait, no, yeah, yeah. Okay.
So 200 facilities then? Right, so then when they do their application and they submit their cover letter and.
I would like to know that. Yeah, I would like
Yep.
to know that.
Their cover letter and their resume and their reference letters, they will also submit a one-page reply to these two questions. So number one, how do you build trust and transparency? And number two, how would you develop and communicate a long-term facility plan?
And we're gonna be able to see their
And you get
original
everyone.
essays, right?
Yep. Yep.
So this other one of how they would be creative and innovative, save it for
And they do
Next
a
one.
question.
an interview question.
Yep. This was other.
That'd be interesting, quick, 90 seconds, how would you do that? Holy crap. That's one of those answers.
So, what pops up in the head? So, what'll happen is Friday it will open, it'll run, accept online applications for 3 weeks, it closes on the 20th. Then on the 20th, you will all have access to those application materials. Okay, and they're all online. The beginning part of that week, you'll get an email that says this is how you log in and what you need to do. Please just call if you're having any problems, if it doesn't make sense to you. And if you would prefer, if we talked about this before, if you would prefer to just come into school, you know, on Monday or Tuesday, we meet Wednesday, no rush to it, because they would set something up in the room, the application materials aren't just like for it. But you can come in, if that's easier than dealing with. You can make that in person. Okay, so you just gotta let me know. But you will have to log in and it tells you how to create a transfer. And this is all confidential employment material. So I do need to stress that. First round of applications, candidates can choose to request that other than if they were recognized, which sometimes there's rules about how many applicants, like if you get 6 or less, everybody's considered a finalist, but people can request to have their application remain confidential, okay? So, caution to everybody, because I know this is the biggest temptation on earth. You get these applications, and oh, my cousin works over there. I don't know anything about this person. You can't do that as an individual member. That's just, these applications are confidential materials. We will be in closed session tonight, you're reviewing these applications. Okay? Now, we'll talk that night, because somewhere between the first interview and the second interview, there will be some employment references that need to be done. And sometimes there's somebody that's what they do, that's just they like doing that. Otherwise, but we will need someone to say, hey, I will call the employers of those things. Now, when you call the employers, you ask, is there anyone else that works with this person? Because you don't have to stick to the list of people. Okay? So we'll talk some more about that, but this first round, it really needs to stay confidential. And I do tell the candidates, yes, you can request that. But please understand that when you walk into a building all dressed up and then everybody in the district knows that the board is meeting tonight to interview candidates. And lo and behold, your college roommate happens to be a parent now and that you haven't seen them for 20 years, 10 years. But they see you walk in, I can't guarantee you that's not total confidential. So make sure you talk to your boss and da da da. I do prep that with that. But I do want to stress to you guys that work as a board and individually, unless you've been assigned to make those calls. We need to be careful that we're doing fair screening, because so that maybe didn't have a lot of connection with just, well, I heard this. You want to talk to somebody that actually worked with that person directly. There's some things with that.
Let me ask you this, is it unreasonable to have 2 of us at one time on a conference call, talk to those employers or not, in a private room?
You know, I've never had anybody ask that before.
I'm just curious.
Yep, and I've got time to ask, because we've got attorneys that I can call.
Okay.
I have had districts where because you have got maybe 6 people that are in there, you know, whatever, the number got big enough. Usually we're down to 3 finalists, it's not that bad. But sometimes they'll split it up where somebody, one board member calls, this is where I've set a references to this, but I've never anybody asked me to do it simultaneously. So I will. ask.
Because each person hears something different.
Oh, I
and that's-
know. I know.
And that's why I'm asking.
Yep, I get it.
Now will you, send us a link when it's posted
Um,
to our, so that we can see it when it's live?
I could direct you to where, yeah, some different.
Or just at least direct us to that link, the UR, whatever.
Yeah, I'll send a link to at least one of the spots. Well, WSB, you all should have school board members have access to the WSB.
I don't know what my access codes are.
Oh, well, but no, then I think out on the.
How's everybody doing?
I could be wrong, but I think that anybody can go out, like the current job. openings. You don't have to log in.
No.
No, I believe you can go out and look at that, but I will send you to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to bring up that the, meetings down in Milwaukee, the superintendent evaluation framework, and we've all talked about, we don't like the evaluation form that we've been using the
Right.
last few years. And there's a website you can go to,
It's on hold.
yeah.
Did
and
you
it'll-
take that class
Yes,
this year? I took it last year. So,
Okay.
yeah.
and it's, Wasba helps you, it's $395 for a year, and they go through the whole.
But you guys, because you went through search, you
We
don't
get
get
We
that
did it
for a
with,
year.
this is what we get.
We get,
Okay, this is already in.
So
Okay.
down for
Right.
next year, you'll
That's
look
good.
at that, yes.
since we engaged in this whole search, that part of it.
Good, because I think we need it to.
Done?
I'm excited, thanks guys, you got through the toughest part of this getting started now. When you get all those good applicants, that night can be a conversation too, but you'll have from Friday night, Wednesday, or midnight when it opens up. We'll have Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to review. I like to bring, it's up to you guys, some people don't like the extra copy paper, some do, but you'll be able to see it all online, so bring your computers. But if you like, I can bring like the cover letters and the essay questions and resumes, paper copy, but then I flip them all back. But if it makes it easier to sit and flip back and forth.
To me, it's easier.
Yeah.
Because I will write on it and I don't have a problem with after I write all over it,
Yeah.
hand it back.
Then I'll take it, but if I'm seeing a few nods, because I've just smiled, but for people, even when you sit on the computer, you start flipping between what that person's saying and what that person's saying. Sometimes it's just nice to, but I don't do the whole thing, like, that application could be this long. There's all this legal stuff about they have to answer yes, no, and not having done anything illegal.
So
and all
you'll
that
give us
stuff.
their resume, their cover letter,
letters,
and the
then-
question.
and the question.
Okay, that's all I need.
Okay, because references you think,
Yeah.
but those are the pieces that most people are reading pretty thoroughly. But I'll do that, but I don't always do it. You get 20 applications, you know that? A little like those that, but.
I don't eat paper, so I'll just do it.
Okay, yep, and some people are very comfortable, but.
So they don't want trees, so that makes it 5 copies.
Okay.
I don't want more paper, that's less.
Well, again, I would take, but I do like to. Okay, so that week before it closes then, you'll get an email from the WSB office, not from me. So when you see something from WSB, then she'll have, here's the directions, and she'll say, please call me if you have whatever, then you can let me know too if you have any problems. And again, it's going to WSB, so you do have a login already, but that's what they're gonna tell you, is you
I just gotta figure out what it is.
Yes, and then you will have access to everything, something that's straight out. You'll see everything that they sent. And then we will meet on the 25th on that Wednesday. And we will go through in 2 things. Number 1, you'll pick who you want to visit with. Okay? And then number 2, we'll decide the interview questions for first round. So in your binder, you have like, there's separated into like 9 categories. You could go through and pick your top 2 out of each group, or there's off of these things if you like something. That speeds that up because sometimes that night just your people can take a couple hours. So if we can get the interview questions condensed down, we just literally go around, who picked this, and we just do a voice vote and pick it up because otherwise that gets too long. So your assignment is to look at interview and adapt them. You don't have to take it word for word, but most of the time I just and you don't have to have questions out of all the categories. If there's a category that you just like that, there's probably gonna be something else. You know, but if you want to pick 2 out of each one, then at least you're set.
Reference from data.
Well, that's the other piece. You have some things down that like guide you on those questions. Pick a little heavier out of some categories than others. And we're looking for, you know, you can do the math. If we have, let's say we took the whole hour and did 60, well, make it simple. We back it up to 50 minutes because we want to have one introduction at the beginning. We want to give them time at the end to ask questions of you. They should come prepared for that. So let's say we have 45 minutes times 3 minutes a question. That's 18.
So we can't adjust it down to 10?
Well, and that's your discussion.
Then that's what we have to decide, and then you also have to, so me or somebody will have to.
Oh, yeah, have a script for.
Right, you have to say, right, you have to say, we've only gotten through a third and we're
Yeah,
halfway, so we need
I
to.
can do that for
Okay,
you.
yeah, right.
Because you want to be listening, but I can be going.
Yeah.
You don't. Or I can do the time. thing.
Or you can do 3 minutes and cut them off right at that question.
Sometimes questions are.
We've done that. We literally cut them off in the middle of their.
If they get too weighted, but most of them should know. They need to watch their time, and that is just a strategy I like to, when we set up the room. For interviews, I'm forgetting our way on. I like to have a candidate sitting where they. That puts the whole we decided, like, I know.
I think we've done them in the library, and they should be able to look.
So is it just, it's just us doing this? Instead of doing it as a district, $50 an hour.
I think we decided,
It's also warmer.
That's a priority.
Just
First
say,
week of March could be cold.
I don't have to have a blanket coat.
Oh, they're done.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Okay.
We got a lot of.
Thank
time.
you.
Make a motion to adjourn.
So
8:35, all right, thank you all.
Do you have a certain person that is their job?
Yes.
yeah, and then, at the first motion is so moved.